Go. Welcome to Your Signal, where we explore the stories, turning points, and defining moments that shape a person's work and purpose, and the signal that moves them to make a difference in the world. Because at every moment, we are guided by signals within us and around us. And when those signals are clear, aligned, and in harmony, we don't just move through life, we step into it with purpose, energy, and the ability to truly amplify our brilliance. Rachel, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
You have immersed yourself in all things sports and athletics with a remarkable ability to bring together performance, leadership, mental wellness, personal growth in a deeply integrated way. We're looking forward to hearing your perspective, your journey, and the philosophy that guides you in the work you do. But first, we want to hear your signal. What was it in your life, that pivot point that motivated you to do what you're doing?
There's so many. So to pinpoint one, I think it's really hard to say. But I would definitely say with where I'm at in my career as an athletic director, I would say being a college coach for 10 years prior to that, it was during COVID, getting cancer and realizing filling everybody else's cup all the time is not always the best venture. No matter how much you're doing so, you have to find something to anchor yourself with. And my identity was always in what I did and not who I was as a person. And so it's fortunate that I got cancer, but it's unfortunate I got cancer because it did change my perspective. And I am 6 years in remission. Um, but I will have to say that's kind of where my education took shape as well. So,
So, what you learned during that time was that when you don't take care of yourself, it really impacts you too. And so that then again impacted the people that you were caring for, right? You weren't able to pass it on while you were so struggling with that health challenge. Yes. And so were you studying at that time as well?
so I didn't. So I got a master or I got a bachelor's in college when I was a college athlete in sports management and recreation management. Was going to be a college coach. Basically, it was the easiest way to become a college coach. And then I was very well connected with my college coach in the recruiting realm and getting networking and all of those pieces. And so I had then, right out of college, started my first master's in Christian ministries with leadership. I went to a Christian university and then wanted to continue to keep growing in my faith. And so
Hmm.
then that's there was like probably 4 or 5 years in between my first master's and my second master's where I just was coaching, loving coaching, but was almost too embedded in everybody else's issues, I guess you could say, or everybody else's things. I would basically be a counselor without the degree. And then during COVID, found, hey, nutrition and exercise really was a precursor to help me heal from my cancer. So that's when I
Hmm.
started my second master's in exercise science, nutrition, and wellness.
So do you ever bring together your faith and your and what you've learned in your Christian studies together with your coaching and with your fitness programs?
Yeah, and it's the main key piece of why I do it. It's kind of my purpose. My call is to definitely be what I call a lighthouse. A lot of my mentors have stated I'm a lighthouse, and lighthouses stand alone. And at times with your faith, you're the only one in the room. But people always know there's something different. Like A lot of people say I have the sauce, and I think it's funny because I don't still don't know what that means, but I think I'm very humble. And I also exemplify or try to what a servant leader would be. Nothing is too big for me and nothing is too small for me. And so that is where my heart is when it comes to leadership and just helping people. I don't just do nutrition and personal training, and I really help people just with their lives in general. And I want to listen, and I want them to not make the same mistakes I did.
So if you could define what those mistakes were, let's say in three points, what would you share with us?
Your voice matters. Never let a bully make you do what is not your call. And start now. Don't wait.
Oh, I love that one. So never let a bully. So you're standing your ground just to your purpose. Doesn't matter what anything antagonistic or in there or someone trying to persuade you from your calling and your faith. You
Mhm.
are firm. Is
Mhm.
that what we're hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful. Valuable lessons for life, not just from a sports coach, right? From a
Mhm.
wellness coach. The nutrition part, tell us about that. Did you go did you, is that something you learned on your own, or did you actually take courses in it?
Yeah.
How does it fit in to your fitness?
Yeah. Again, when you get cancer, everything in your life changes. And my mom, she's a 2-year or 2-time cancer survivor. And I really wanted something that impacted not just me, but other people. And so I do know I have a platform. I do all know all of those things. And so I decided to go back and get a second master's. So I am a licensed nutritionist and I do have a certificate in personal training. So I am a certified personal trainer. Um, but I did those things because I knew I needed to learn more about myself. When you go through cancer, your body changes, no matter if you want it to or not. It just does, right? And so you have to figure out what works and what didn't work. What habits did you have that you didn't even know were bad habits? And what were good habits that you had that you didn't even realize that were good habits? And fighting through understanding the stereotypes of what the world has on what health is and genuinely what health is and trying to merge the two was why I did it. I wanted to learn more just for myself, but also for my family, for my mom too. And then for those who have always seen me as somebody who's a strong person, I tend to be told all the time, "You're a strong person. I wonder how you're so strong." And I always point it back to the Lord. So being able to utilize my education and my faith while doing something that's purposeful has really been a huge benefit. And I actually took time away from higher ed and was just full time in personal training and starting my own business and doing nutrition planning for student athletes with mentors and coaches. And it was a great piece, but it didn't fill me all the way. And so it was continue to just seeking and finding what my purpose is.
So I'm sure, welcome Giovanna for coming into the room. And I'm sure Giovanna is curious too. How do you give us an example of how you blend your faith and your nutrition and your fitness coaching? Could you?
Mhm. Yeah. I think it starts with meeting people where they are with no judgment. I don't think faith has to be something that you constantly push in people's faith. I think it's how you approach situations with grace, being humble. So when you're dealing with student athletes, for instance, who I've done personal training with and who I've done nutrition planning with, you constantly are having to break the stigma of there's a reason for why you're where you are and not throwing a judgment, but really, I didn't know certain things when I was in college. I was that athlete that could eat whatever they want and still was super successful. Now, when I look back, I was like, man, I wish that I would have, right? And so teaching them now instead of the wish I would have, having certain days and times where you give yourself grace and maybe having a cheat meal and not consistently being on a meal plan all the time, macros, all of those things, right? And so I I don't personally think my faith is something that I just like shout to the world. I think it's when you invest in your clients, then you tend to start having those conversations without even realizing it because they see something different in you. Well, why do you move this way? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Well, because God's called me to something so much greater than just keeping all this information to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Was
true.
your signal,
Mhm.
Giovanna. Yeah. You're truly your signal, and you're sharing it. And Giovanna and I, we both feel very strongly about what we've learned and sharing it with the world. Um, so you are pursuing now a
Yes.
doctorate. And
Yes.
when I read what you're doing, a doctorate in sport performance psychology with a focus on clinical mental health counseling. Trying to unwrap that for us, and I'm really curious about the clinical mental health part and fitting that in with performance psychology.
Yeah, so it's an integrated program. So I recently got my third master's in September in clinical mental health counseling. Yes, I know. But it was honestly probably my favorite degree that I got because it was the one that grew me and stretched me the most. And how it works with the sport performance part is you can consult while also having the counseling background. So I always knew that I was a great listener. I always knew that I have a great rapport with people. I know how to invest. I know how to meet people where they are. I'm very cultured. I've lived in 7 states. There's a lot to me in that sense. And so when it came to this degree, I had been through something pretty heavy in my career. And the only thing that got me out of it was counseling. And so it was like, man, if this lady can do it, why can't I? And so why not bring a holistic approach where you're really focusing on the mental, the physical, and the overall arching of what is happening in your life. And so that's really why I started this degree. The sport performance side, I wish I had a sport performance coach when I was in college. Back in that time, it was just run through a wall and you'll figure it out. And we all know that's not how young kids are today. They really need to talk out their feelings. They need to understand why they're feeling the way that they do. And I think it's an amazing thing that these young people want to understand their mental side. And so it's given me that edge where I was an elite athlete, I was an elite coach, and now I can see it from all the different perspectives.
I'm curious. I think Giovanna is too. What was your sport?
Women's basketball.
Ah, okay, cool, cool. And you like were with a team and one of the star players
Yes.
and did games all over the country and
Yes. And so in my college career, we won 116 games and lost 26. So losing was not really something that I knew. I had a great mentor and a college coach who taught me that sport is a precursor to life, and that when you're going
Hmm.
through hardships in a sport, guess what? Life is just going to be that much harder. And so do you shy away from the hard things, or do you attack them head on, knowing that you've prepared and knowing that you have people in your, he would say, foxhole. And I've had teammates pass away when I was in college with cancer. And so to be at a faith institution where we had chapel 3 times a week, and it was instilled in us, like that is when my faith became my own. Yes, I was baptized younger. Yes, I gave my heart to the Lord. But when you really are vested with people and you're doing a sport and you're praying before games and you're praying after games, all of those things have really been a huge piece as to where my life has come. I'm not this holy roller by any stretch, but I'm definitely somebody who uses my faith as a sign that there's so much more than what you're doing, and don't ever think that you're not worthy of what your goals are, even if people tell you you're not. Because guess what? I work in a male dominated industry. Not many females are in this industry. So I've had to fight every stigma there is out there. And my faith has been the centerpiece as to why I am where I am.
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Mm, Do you see the faith part of humanity and in the sports world, is that growing? or receding? Is it?
I think it depends on
Sometimes
where
we
you
see it
are.
on the field, right? We see
Yeah.
people openly sharing their faith.
I really think it depends on where you are. Like for instance, when I lived in the state of Washington, I didn't see it as much as I did when I was in
Mm,
South Texas or currently in Kansas, right? Because they're completely different, I
yep.
guess, areas. The best way I know how to explain it. And so when you're in those types of environments, people tend to know you have a faith just by even wearing a cross necklace or a keychain or whatever. And so my faith was really stretched in the state of Washington. But it was stretched in a very positive way because it brought me back to the holistic person that I am.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And carrying that forward is it can only do good.
Mhm.
Only do good. Yeah.
Mm.
Giovanna, do you have any questions for Rachel?
I don't, but I think it's beautiful that you are not, inhibited to make sure people understand where your heart is. Even if you're not speaking with words, it still comes out and people can feel that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Definitely. We're curious, young aspiring athletes, what would be your advice for them in this day and age?
I think realizing who you are outside of what you do. So finding what who you are at your core. What are your core values? If you had everything stripped away from you, from your identity of being an athlete, a daughter, a son, an aunt, and uncle, who are you? What is your legacy going to be? My college coach used to always say, "What are you going to put on your tombstone? What would people say about you when they go to your funeral? Are you going to be that crabby old lady, or are you going to be that lady who left a legacy of investment, left a legacy of, you know, being equitable, left a legacy of cultivating a positive culture. And how do you do that? Through investment. And so, what are your core values as a human being? If you don't know what your core values are, start listening to podcasts, start listening to amazing preachers out there who have probably done way worse than what you have in your life. But guess what? Their core values are who they are. It's not what they do. And so stripping yourself of what that identity is and what the world calls you. I have so many
Mhm.
people come up and say, "Oh, here's Miss Rachel, the athletic director." I'm like, "Hi, my name is Rachel." I never ever say I'm the athletic director. I never say I have all these degrees. That's just a part of who I am. It's stuff that people can't take from me, but it's never going to be the thing that identifies me anymore. Cancer identified me, and I became a cancer survivor. And so now I say I'm a survivor. I'm not a cancer survivor. So there's a big difference in the positive self-talk. And so utilizing positive self-talk as well, because you can go and you can do whatever you want to do and you can pivot. You don't have to panic when things happen. You can pivot, and that's life. If you panic, you're going to be stuck in that situation for far too long. So you have to
Mhm.
get yourself out of it. You have to know who you are at your core, and then the rest will follow.
Mhm.
Beautiful words, beautiful words. And I wanted to ask you, but I think you answered it already. How do athletes that are in the game and know that they're going to be retiring soon, how do they prepare for the next stage in life? Because athletes retire earlier than most people.
I
And I
genuinely, yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to that, and I've worked in a lot of different places where suicide ideation is a big key cursor, right? Because that's literally what they identified as, was that athlete. So when you strip that away, they don't know who they are. Well, no, you're a hardworking person. You're someone who understands what it's like to be a part of an amazing team. You understand team dynamics. You understand what it's like to lead, but also to be a person that sits and cheers people on. Like there's so many things. So honing in on those skills that we as athletes take for granted. The world is not black and white, it is very gray. And so
Mm.
understanding the gray areas that you have in your life too, and the gap areas, and holding on to those, I think are so important. It took me a very long time to understand that, and I'm still learning it every single day. But I think when you're aspiring to be a coach or you're aspiring to move on from college or whatever sport you're playing, it's take the time to really get to know yourself and the resilience that you have. Because not
Mhm.
many people understand what it's like to be a college athlete. Not many people understand what it's like to be a professional athlete. And not many people understand what it's like to have the sacrifice. And so, all of those pieces, you have to understand sacrifice is literally a part of your lifeblood. And so instead of sacrificing for the sport, now you're sacrificing for what you want. And there's a big difference.
Beautiful. That's what a beautiful takeaway. And that's how you leave a legacy, right? That's how you leave a legacy. So, Rachel, we're coming to close to the end. We want to know, how can people get in touch with you? You are a personal trainer, right? And well, are you still is that how people can get in touch with you as a for those on a
Well,
one-to-one?
right now, I'm not doing that because I'm so close to the tail end of my doctorate.
Okay.
And so that is, and I'm recovering from a fibula fracture. So I recently had in January. But no, LinkedIn is a really good way to get
LinkedIn.
connected with
Perfect.
me. I love coaching people. I love learning. I love leadership. And so, however, I can get you to see what you already have in you is really where I'm at right now. That's why I've taken the degree that I've taken and the path that I've taken. So,
Get you to see who you are and what you can do. That's beautiful. So, as we come to a close, I want to thank Rachel so much for joining us in this edifying and conversation. Giovanna and I want to leave you with this thought about your signal and about the trillions of tiny signals your cells are creating and sending every second.
Because of these signals, your cells know when something is damaged, where attention is needed, and how to begin repair and renewal. At every level of our being, we are living from signal to signal. Within the body, these are known as redox signals, part of the communication network that helps cells function, adapt, protect, and work together in harmony.
And when Giovanna and I began to understand the profound role of redox signaling in our body, you're born with it, your body's making it all the time, and it's what is keeping you healthy, resilient, and living longer better. That became our signal to share with others in the world. So we invite you to learn more about your signals for health and resilience in our Wednesday Wellness Workshop. We'll put that in the link after the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you.